Welcome back. All right, so finishing out the Pacific Division previews today, and I've got the polls up now for the Central Division, which I'm starting tomorrow. And we're going to talk about Seattle. So this leaves only Edmonton left for me to preview from the Pacific. I saved them for last for obvious reasons, but Seattle, relatively quiet summer outside of signing two big contracts very early in July. And when we look at their top scorers, now I'm not going to change it from since 2014, 2015, but we know it's only 3 years they've been in the league. McCann's their leading scorer all time, 233 games, 96 goals, 86 assists, 182 points. So early in the season, barring injury and barring some kind of drought, he should be able to reach the 100 goal mark as a Seattle player and be the first person to do that, and that'll be a trivia answer. Jordan Eberle's second on the list, 239 games, 58 goals, 93 assists, 151 points. Vince Dunn, 213 games, 32 goals, 113 assists, 145 points. Yanni Gourde, 235 games for him, 46 goals, 83 assists, 129 points. Oliver Bjorkstrand's played 163 games with Seattle, 40 goals, 64 assists, 104 points. Matty Beniers, 167 games, 42 goals, 61 assists, 103 points. And we're going to talk about Beniers, I'm going to say a few times in this video. Alex Wenberg, 222 games, 33 goals, 67 assists, exactly 100 points before he was traded at the deadline. Jaden Schwartz, 170 games, 42 goals, 51 assists, 93 points. So he should be reaching that 100-point mark soon. Adam Larson, 245 games, 20 goals, 56 assists, 76 points. And Ellie Tolvanen, 129 games, 32 goals, 36 assists, 68 points. In terms of goaltenders, they've only had four of record to this stage. Philip Grubauer, 49, 61, and 11. Martin Jones, 27, 13, and 3, and he's still a free agent at this point. Joey Decord, 21, 23, and 12 record. And Chris Drieger, 10, 15, and 1. Got a big contract from Seattle, which expired. He heads back to Florida. But it's going to be Decord and Grubauer, so Decord should pass Jones on that list relatively early in the season, too. Depending on how many games he gets, but all he needs is 7 wins to pass Jones. So over the 3 seasons they've played, or over the last 5 seasons, and this is part of the reason why I go by the averages, because obviously if I went by totals, it would work against Seattle. But their 490 points percentage is 23rd overall amongst teams in the NHL. The goals for per game, 2.91, that's 21st overall. And they're 21st in goals against with a 3.12. Again, for an expansion team, that's not too shabby. Their power play, 18.4%, that's 25th on the list. Their penalty kill, bit more of an issue there. 29th with a 76.8% rating. This year's numbers, so 2023-2024, 494 points percentage was actually 25th in the NHL. The 2.61 goals for per game, 29th. So that's what they need to bring up is the goal scoring. Absolutely have to, because their goals against, I thought their goaltending and their defense was the best it's been in their 3-year existence. They were 9th with a 2.83 goals against average this past season. So if they can get a few more goals, they'll get themselves right back in the hunt for a playoff spot. Their power play wasn't bad, 20.7%, which was 17th, and their penalty kill, definitely better than it's been at 78.8%, which was 20th overall. So again, if those numbers continue an upward trend, and if the goal scoring gets back to where it was the year they made the playoffs, it's just interesting because the year they made the playoffs, they had some good fortune there, maybe a little bit of luck, and then the luck just turned against them this past season. So if they can find a happy medium there, they're going to stay in the hunt. So this past season, McCann was their leading scorer, 80 games, 29 goals, 33 assists, 62 points. I think he can get back up into the 70-point range. Bjorkstrand, 82 games, 20 goals, 39 assists, 59 points. Perfectly serviceable. Maybe looking for 5 or 10 more goals from Bjorkstrand, sure, but 20 goals is pretty good. Vince Dunn, only 59 games this past season, 11 goals, 35 assists, 46 points. Jordan Eberle, 78 games, 17 goals, 27 assists for 44 points. Ellie Tolvanen, 81 games, 16 goals, 25 assists for 41 points. And Tolvanen, I think they'll be looking for about 50 points from him, maybe a little more than that. But Matty Beniers is the one to keep an eye on. 77 games, 15 goals, 22 assists, 37 points. The dreaded sophomore jinx, right? So second-year NHL players, there's been a history of guys in their second year struggling. Beniers in that category. I think he can easily double his point totals. I do. I think he could get into that 70-plus point range. and that would greatly help their chances this coming season. Yanni Gourde, 80 games, 11 goals, 22 assists, 33 points. Jaden Schwartz, 62 games, 13 goals, 17 assists, 30 points. Justin Schultz, who's still a free agent at this point, I do believe, 70 games, 7 goals, 19 assists, 26 points. Wenberg at the time of the trade, 60 games, 9 goals, 16 assists, 25 points. Again, he ends up recording exactly 100 points during his time in Seattle before moving along. So for Rookie Watch, well, I've got Shane Wright there. I do believe that Shane Wright just qualifies as a rookie this coming season, and maybe the past 2 years, the experience that he's had will give him a little bit of an inside edge. But there are definitely some rookies to watch around the NHL this year. Could be a really fun run towards the Calder Trophy. But when we look at this team's top 12 forwards, there's some reason to think things should get better. Jared McCann, Matty Beniers, Jordan Eberle, I'm thinking is probably the first line. Sure, I'll go with that. Jaden Schwartz, Chandler Stevenson, Andre Burakovsky. Burakovsky has to stay healthy. Schwartz, I should say, has to stay healthy. And for Stevenson, he's got a big contract. He needs to show that Ron Francis signing him to that was worthwhile, and that he's worth every penny of that. Then you got Ellie Tolvanen, Yanni Gourde, and Oliver Bjorkstrand. Although I admit, Shane Wright probably belongs at least on the third line. If you're going to get points out of him, you want him to get ice time. And if it was Tolvanen, Wright, and Bjorkstrand, could be interesting. Wright could also end up on the wing. We'll see what they do. Ty Cartier, hard worker. Shane Wright, and Brandon Tanev. Tanev, of course, a hard worker too. So Seattle's not going to be an easy team to beat this year. And I would think there's good reason to believe that things could get better for them this coming season in terms of their chances to make the playoffs. Extras, Ben Myers picked up. Mitchell Stevenson's picked up as well. And these are guys, or Mitchell Stevens, yes, Stevens. So they'll have Stevens and Stevenson potentially in the same lineup. John Hayden, we know what John Hayden brings. Ryan Winterton, Logan Morrison, who both had cups of coffee with Seattle this past season and may very well be rookies to keep an eye on too. Max McCormick, Brandon Biro, and Jagger Firkus, which I wanted to write on the board because Jagger Firkus is fun to say. On the blue line, you got Vince Dunn, Adam Larson, Jamie Alexiak. The addition of Brandon Montour, we'll see how it goes. Montour had a really strong run with Florida. How will that translate now with Seattle? We'll see. Riker Evans and Will Borgen. So that's a pretty solid top six. And then when you get into the extras, they've added Josh Mahura, who's probably going to be the number 7. Cale Fleury, Maxime Lajoie, and Gustav Olofsson. So they've got some players here. They've got some depth, both up front and on the blue line. They still aren't going to want to see a top guy get hurt. They don't necessarily have that top depth, but they have enough depth that they can fill in here and there as need be. In net, I think they need another goalie. I think they need a third goalie, at least according to the list I'm looking at here. Grubauer and Decord, good, solid tandem. Alish Steska, who's 27 years of age, he's going to get more time, I would think, with Coachella Valley. And Nicholas Kakko, who is last season was on loan over to, I believe, Pelicans. And we'll see whether or not he plays in North America this year. May very well be signed over to play in Europe. But there's not a lot of options here for Seattle, so it does feel like maybe we see them pick up a veteran goaltender on a tryout that they intend to put down in Coachella Valley. Their NHL tandem's pretty good, but you're not going to want to see an injury to either Grubauer or Decord. So we'll see what they do from here until training camp and then into the season. They do have some cap space, $6,372,143. So one reason you can sign Stevenson and Montour to pretty expensive contracts is you have the cap space to make that work. So Seattle taking a different tactic from what Vegas did. Seattle having that cap space, Vegas never really has. And so where Vegas over their history has been shedding salaries and players and all that, Seattle gradually building themselves up. We'll see what goes in this fourth season. So their schedule, and no, I don't cover every single month because I don't feel like every single month has to be discussed. I like to discuss the first couple of months. I like to discuss around the All-Star break, that month of February, and April, how things are down the stretch. So in October, they have 6 out of 11 games at home, and in November, 8 out of 14 at home. So 14 of their first 25 games are at home. That should be to their benefit if they have a good home record. In February, they have 3 at home, 1 away from home, and then there's the Four Nations Cup. After the Four Nations Cup, they have 3 away from home. So February, Getting those wins at home early in the month could be key. And in April, they have a 5-game road trip and then 2 games at home to finish out the season. So, pretty decent first or early start to the season, October, November schedule wise. That's where you can make some hay, get yourself above the playoff line, and then it's a matter of trying to stay there the rest of the way. The Cup odds don't like Seattle, plus 7,000. So, for value, sure, it's 7,000. The channel vote doesn't like their chances of finishing first or second. 2% voted them there. But 34% think third or fourth for Seattle. Fifth or sixth, 57% of the vote went there. And 7% of the vote said Seattle would finish 7th or 8th. So that's a higher number than I would have anticipated. But there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding the Seattle Kraken. And again, it does feel like this is a team that should be better this coming season than what we saw this past season. This is a team, too, that announcers, especially nationally, I kept hearing announcers like, oh, they've got a really good chance. They're getting ready to roll. This year, maybe they get that done. Maybe they finish above the playoff line. But let me know your thoughts. Do hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.